At the drawing table, we are getting ready to sketch, do a little hand yoga, do a little stretch, checking out my pencil sharpener and my pencil case. Let's go. So I picked up these pencils. They are Stadler, made in Germany, and they were about 10 euro. And where I live, that is cheap. So it means it's about 100 Norwegian crowns. Depending on where you live, these might be a lot cheaper where you live, but where I live, they're about 10 euros or $10. Where you live, they might be, for example, in Germany, they might be 6 or 7 euro, something like that. So I'm just showing the equipment that I'm going to use quickly. Some tape and some stuff. And I have my reference and my line drawing. And I hang the reference up in front of me with a piece of tape so I can see it. So this line drawing is really handy dandy because if you just want to color today, you can just color. You can print it out and color. The link to these free resources are in the description. But a lot of people feel really uncomfortable with having to draw the thing from scratch. So that's why I have the line drawing, and you can do what I do here on a window during the daytime to transfer it to a paper. I'm using my favorite handy dandy Cheyenne pencil, and I'm going to touch down really gently on the paper to mark out these lines. So you have the option here. You can print out and color directly on the line drawing that I have provided for you. Or you can do what I'm doing here, gently with a pencil, just mark out the lines. Because if you press down very gently on the paper, like you're barely touching it, it's just going to leave the faintest possible trace so that you can color it in and not have a bunch of lines showing. And you're like, but don't you want lines? No, not at this stage. I just want to be able to see the shape as I'm coloring. And then later on, as I'm coloring and seeing where this goes, I have this choice still. Do I want to add lines or not? Or what do I want to do? This is a really nice practice. People are like, oh, you shouldn't trace, you should draw freehand. What a bunch of nonsense. You can do both. And tracing is a really good practice for the motor skills of your hand. That is like super good to learn for drawing other stuff. So don't worry about that. Like tracing is absolutely fine. It's extremely helpful. Yeah, you learn a bunch. So don't worry about that. Tracing is absolutely cool. It's just part of the process of learning to draw or wanting to do it as a hobby. Yeah, it's good. You don't have to worry about that. So here I have the very faint outline that I drew and the outline that you can print out. So you can just pick and choose whatever you want to do here. For a lot of people, the coloring option is really nice because then I don't feel so pressured to draw from scratch. The reference is here. I'm looking at it. I'm really focused. I have to see it. I hang it back up. I just wanted to remind you to have that in front of you. It can be very helpful to help you place shadows and stuff. So what I'm doing here, I'm going in with the orange and just faintly, very faintly and lightly, and with hardly any pressure on the pencil, I'm laying down some general orange tone on the jack-o'-lantern. And that might seem strange to some of you, but I just find it very helpful to place the main colors just... Okay, so what am I doing here? Okay, this is a jacko. I'm getting a feel for the pencil and the color right away. Just a very light pressure, hardly any pressure. I'm just like sketching back and forth randomly, having a little bit of the color go onto the paper just to get started. This is just really cheap copy paper from the office supply store. Doesn't cost hardly anything. This is just for fun, and we're doing a little drawing exercise, so there's no reason to stress about expensive paper or anything. Now I'm doing the same with the purple. It's like a purplish pink. And the reason why is because orange and purple are on the opposite sides of the color wheel. And because they're opposites, they contrast to each other. And if you put them next to each other, they make each other look more vibrant. So that's a very neat little trick. You can look up the color circle online on Google or whatever you want. Not that it's important, it's just I like to mix and match. Also, orange is a warm color, and I'm going to be using browns and reds in the pumpkin. So I'm adding some blue in the shadow beneath the pumpkin just because cold colors will make the warm orange and warm red stand out even more to make him even more spectacular and wonderful. And that is the whole point. So I'm adding some extra color of blue to the corners of that shadow, just to make it pop a little bit, and experiment with putting in a little bit of blue next to that orange. And here I have taped down my paper to make it more stable and easier for you guys to see. Because if my paper isn't taped down, I'm going to be swirling and twirling and turning it around the whole time, which is really convenient for me, but not so fun to watch. Okay, so I'm just showing that that hat is going to cast some shade into the kind of face of the jack-o'-lantern. And so I added a little bit more of an orange underneath that, the rim of the hat. Here I'm drawing in my little handy dandy sun. And if you have seen some of my other sketching videos, you know this little sun helps me remember where the light is coming from in this picture. So I've chosen a light direction, and it's going from the upper right corner to the lower left. So then I know about where the shadow might fall in an image like this, logically speaking, like underneath the hat and underneath the jack-o'-lantern and stuff. It's just so helpful to have that sun out because it's a visual reminder to keep you on track. Where is the light coming from? Because that's a question you ask yourself all the time as you're shading or coloring. So I'm holding up my hand there to show, okay, that's the shadow side. The right side of the pumpkin is the shadow side. No, I'm sorry. My other right, left side. Yeah, you know what I mean. You mean what I know. Here I'm just laying in a little bit more orange, and now I'm applying a little bit more pressure. And the minute you apply a little bit more pressure to a pencil, it'll give a little bit more pigment, a little bit more color. So here I'm just showing in little sections on the bottom, when you apply more pressure, it's going to give more color. And when you lighten up the pressure, it's going to give less. So on the bottom of the pumpkin there, I'm just pressing down a little bit harder to make it a bit more of an intense orange. But that also leads me to having to sharpen my pencil a bunch. That's just life. Gotta have a sharp, nice, sharp pencil. So much more satisfying and fun. Oh, he's got little teeths. Oh, Lord. Orange teeths. He's been eating too many cheese doodles on Halloween night. Cheese doodles are one of my favorite snacks. They're so good. Yeah, just coloring those in and starting to add a little bit more pressure to get a little bit more of the pigment. So practicing with a pencil, you can practice on a paper by itself, just like, okay, if I push down a little bit more and then I get a bit more pigment and stuff, and you can experiment with that on sheets of paper just to get a feel for the pencil. It's really, really good to practice that. But I'm just going with really gentle lines in a crisscross pattern all over the place until I can build up the color that I want. So be patient because you're going to be doing a lot of these like crisscrossy lines everywhere with different amounts of pressure just to get the color down. And you can just take it easy and layer them until you can kind of build up the color that you want. You don't have to rush. You can take your time with this. It's really fun to do. Here too, I'm doing these like little crisscross lines just to add a little bit more shape to the hat. So on the left side is where the shadow is casting. So that side I'm slowly building up and filling in with little crisscross lines so that it gives a bit more pigment, and that side turns a little bit darker because it's away from the sun. And that hat is a good example of what you can do when you have a light source. It's very clear to you, okay, this is the dark side and this is the light side. We need a little bit of color on the light side too. If not, it just looks flat. So that's a little trick you see there. The main volume and area of the right side towards the light is light. So, but yeah, it's just to show you different things you can do. So here I'm showing, I'm going in these like crisscross lines. That's what that shading that the arrow points to consists of. And it's a great way to just be able to build up very slowly and methodically and not be like, okay, why isn't it dark enough yet? And you just do like kind of like layer by layer and it builds up. It's a nice way to get the color and shade that you want. The rim of the hat I have to darken a slight bit just to give it a bit of shape. Playing with pencils is really fun because it's such a low kind of risk. It's cheap, it's cheerful, you have some nice colors, and it's not messy, which I love, because once you start messing around with paint and stuff, things can get really messy and there's a big cleanup and everything. But with these things, all you have to do when you're done is put them back in the pencil case. Let's just face it, you know, most of the time we don't really have time to, or we don't want to spend a bunch of time cleaning up after ourselves after doing a hobby or a craft. So I'm adding a little bit of blue in here too, because blue and purple go really well together. And I wanted it a little bit darker. Also, blue is cold. It's nice to put in the corner like I showed with my hand there, where we have a corner here. And in corners, it's really good to have darker colors and maybe a bit of cold, which blue is a cold color, and it helps contrast to that orange. It makes the orange pop more when you have a little bit of blue and stuff around. And we want our jack-o'-lantern to really stand out. This is his time to shine. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm counting down the days to Halloween. So a jack-o'-lantern is definitely nice to draw this time of year when it's cooling down and it's wild. But we're actually, at the time of filming this, we're already like towards the end of August, which is kind of scary and kind of wild. I have so many things that I have to achieve and do before Christmas, so it's a bit intimidating, but at least we can draw some jack-o'-lanterns and have a good time. There are so many nice things to look forward to in autumn too, so it's good. So here I'm going in with a bit of a deep orange, I think, or maybe it was a red. Yeah, I think it was the deep, because it was 2 oranges in this kit, which I think is wonderful. So they had 2 oranges. This is the medium one. And again, it looks really fancy on the video because it's a bit faster. But I'm literally just going with crisscross sketchy little lines and putting different amounts of pressure on it. And when you go with these little lines and build things up, you can take your time to achieve the color that you want. And I'm going underneath the rim of the hat, just slowly building up that orange and following the shape of the jack-o'-lantern to make it look a bit three-dimensional, and just to, you know, kind of accentuate the shape of the pumpkin underneath the rim of the hat. And all of it is just these little crissy-crossy lines, slowly building it up. If it's too light, just add a little bit more pressure. Just press down on the pencil a little bit harder. And now it's really starting to take shape. It's nice to see it take shape like this. Of course, it's sped up a little bit, so you get to see it a bit faster. But also while drawing, this is a very satisfying process when you see it start taking shape and looking a bit more three-dimensional. It's really fun to do this. I totally zoned out while I did this drawing today. It was like really quiet in the artist room and I was just chilling by myself, and I kind of forgot time and place there for a minute. It was really nice. I've had a really busy weekend, and just sitting down to draw like this can be extremely helpful when trying to balance out and get the stress out. And I love that kind of state of mind. I think they call it flow state. And it's when you kind of forget where you are and what time it is, and you don't think about any of your problems. It's like your mind goes blank, but in the best way. Like in that, oh, I'm having so much fun, I'm absorbed in this activity way. But you're not having any conscious thoughts. You're just doing what you're doing. In this case, drawing, which is lovely. Try it sometime. And you get the same thing with coloring. Like, it doesn't have to be that involved. You can color, you can do all these things in a very simple way. It doesn't have to be very complicated. Of course, I wanted to show you like how you can build this up and do this super cool and stuff, but it doesn't mean you have to. You can just, if you wanted to fill the whole thing in with flat orange with a marker, you do that. Don't worry about it. I think marker would be really cute on this if you're coloring the line drawing that you printed out. Just flat orange with a marker and then maybe some black in the eyes. Could be super cute. Like, you don't have to be all elaborate and shaded and stuff, but it's fun to show it. It's kind of entertaining to watch, and gets you in the mood for autumn things, autumn activities. When you see this little Jacko guy taking shape. And I wanted some color inside of his head, so to speak. So I was like just thinking jack-o'-lantern. I wanted just a simple orange and yellow in there, just to make him glow a little bit. And just adding some first layers. There we have the yellow. Such a fun color to add. Jack-o'-lanterns to me is like the ultimate Halloween symbol. And I found this little reference on Pinterest somewhere. I even I suspect that it's AI. I don't know. It was just like this drawing reference thing that I showed you earlier, but who cares? It's cute. It's Jacko, and it's got a witchy hat. I mean, I'm sold. But finding a reference like that, doing a line drawing and making it your own, yeah, I used a reference just to look at it a little bit for shading, direction and stuff, but it's just for fun, You can just find a reference anywhere. You can find a picture that you sort of like and make it your own. So here I just added a little bit of orange also at the end on top of the yellow, and that really adds a nice effect and makes it glow a bit more. So if I just filled yellow in there, it would have looked a bit flat, but going over it again after with the orange really helped. So that kind of makes it work better. So now I'm just adding more cold color around the base of the pumpkin just to make it stand out more and make the orange and the other colors that are warm, like the yellow, adding this bluish, greenish stuff to the bottom really makes the orange stand out. You can already see it happening. Just adding these little extra colors. There I'm repeating some of the purple just to tie it all together. And you can be really rough with these like extra colors around the thing or on the bottom of the thing. You don't have to be very accurate or whatever. You can just put them down on the paper. Maybe see here I'm starting to do some shapes that look like grass a little bit. It doesn't really matter. This is just for fun, and adding the color in can really help create some contrast and pull the thing together a little bit. Repeating color. You see, that's what I do here. I use the same pencil as I used in the hat, and I'm just repeating a little bit. But that's a neat trick to make it look a bit more planned, like it's all tying together a bit, even though it's just a cute little sketchy sketch. It's fun to play with repetition of color, for example, because it makes it look like you had a plan, even when you didn't. So repeating color, yeah, neat trick. And now just adding some more balloon stuff and just having fun with it, really. Doing some scratchy shapes and yeah, just playing around. As long as some of that surface is covered with blue, I don't really care how it happens. It's just good to get some different colors in so they can contrast against each other and create some interest there. I just go through the different colors that I want to use, and here I start adding some, I think that's brown that I'm adding. Brown is really good to use together with, for example, orange and red, because you can create kind of like a little bit deeper shade that doesn't break too much with the general color scheme. Here I'm blending it out a little bit with the red. And all this is like a slow process of just building color. Don't get too impatient, because if you try to rush it, it'll just be too much and you can't adjust it later, or, you know. So here I'm just creating a little bit more contrast with the brown on top of the orange, highlighting certain areas, and instantly you see what this does. It creates kind of like, gives it more shape and makes it feel more three-dimensional. But you're building just very gently on top of the existing color with crisscross patterns like I pointed to with my hand. Just crisscross little soft lines on top of the other stuff. But it makes it slightly darker. And it brings out the shape a lot more. It's a nice little effect. And this is something you can play with a lot. Like this, of course, takes practice. This result with the soft shading and everything, yeah, of course it takes practice, but this is just to give you an idea. And all I'm doing with the pencil is going gently over things and like in a crissy-crossy pattern. And it builds and you get these really cool effects. It's really worth practicing because it's really fun when you can master it and make it look cool. So again, I'm going over it with a bit of red. It's really nice to go over and blend with different color just to make sure. For example, the brown, I want it to be nice and warm, so I go over it just slightly with a little bit of red to make sure it's not too cold or too like specifically brownish. I just wanted to blend in with the orange, and a nice color to do that with is the red, because it's kind of like in the middle between brown and orange. This is also a huge plus of this pencil kit, that it's, of course, affordable is very nice, but the fact that you don't have a huge choice of colors is actually a huge advantage. And it's like, what? Is that a good thing? Kind of, yes, because you have to work with what you have. And also it doesn't get as overwhelming. If you have a case of like 60, 70 pencils or more, that's a lot of choice. I think, especially if you're a beginner, or if you're like me and just like to keep it simple so that you can just draw and have a good time without making too many decisions, I think a limited supply of colors make you creative and lets you learn to blend together on the paper all these different shades of those colors. It's really fun, and it's a lot more demanding of you to learn to use the pencils and everything. If you don't have a bunch to choose from, you have to be a bit more like mindful of how you use the pencil and try to get the most out of the colors that you have and blending them together and stuff. I think that's really good. You learn a lot about color when you have to blend and mix and try to make the most of what you have. If every possible shade is available to you, you might get a little bit lazy with the crisscrossing and the blending and the trying to make these colors look a certain way or look good together. So I think it's really helpful to have to be creative and specific with a limited amount of colors. I don't like to make a bunch of decisions when I do little things like this, so limited color selection is actually really good. So I'm just taking the same old purple that's in the hat and I'm creating some shadows with it. So it's like a pinkish purple, which I really like because that blends better with the orange than a very bluish purple would. So I think it really works well. And now you can really see that the shadow under the rim of the hat is really starting to pop out and create this like 3D vibe to the pumpkin. But it took a long time to build all that up. So just be patient with it and go back and forth between colors. And you know, you could do the Jacko in a different color. Like, for example, if you wanted to do him green, I think that'd be really cool too. Whatever you like, just have fun with it. So I've been through all of these different colors, and here I'm just trying to locate my black because I'm thinking, okay, maybe my last step is going to be adding some black just sparingly certain places just to make it pop even more. The difference before and after black is really cool. So watch this. So I just go into like corners and edges a little tiny bit here and there. But the difference it makes is quite cool. That's why I love black, because it just adds so much if you do just a tiny little bit in the right spots. And you know, black is cool because the more in a drawing like this, the more sparingly you use it, the kind of a bigger impact it has. That's something you can experiment with. Like, don't overdo it, because if you just put it in a few little places, that darkness will just emphasize everything else really well. And of course, underneath the pumpkin is where we're going to have the most of the shadow, since I'm trying to make it feel like it's sitting on a surface. So especially in that corner, I'm going a little bit heavier. It's fun to have that contrast and try to make it look a little bit like grass or like some branchy trees or some spooky stuff. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of abstract anyway, so it's just putting the black at the bottom, blending it out into the blue a little bit, and making it feel like the pumpkin is kind of sitting on a surface in a way. And that's what black can really do, is that little bit of black just makes it feel like it's more three-dimensional looking and it's kind of sitting on the surface. And it's a nice way to just get that contrast and make it really stand out and pop against the background. So that's why I finish off with the black in this particular sketch, because I don't want it to be too much. I just wanted to bring out the colors and emphasize everything we've already done, but sparingly, and you know, just a little bit of contrast into the drawing. So here I maybe did a bit much, I think, but you know, whatever. We're just having fun. So we all have that too much gene, don't we? That we just want to do a little bit more. Sometimes we should just stop. But I was having too much fun. It was really great. My little pencil sharpener there, so handy, so convenient. And there we go. Jacko is ready for autumn. And the reference is there. The jack-o'-lantern's there. And I hope you had fun. You can color that line drawing that you see there if you want to, or just draw like I did. Whatever you choose to do, I really hope you had fun with it. Thank you so much for joining me.